Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 9th of August, comes to you from London. And the big story at the moment is the geopolitics with Trump's comments on North Korea. And so we are seeing some quite big moves in the market. The dollar shot up yesterday. It is really just sitting at this 93.75 resistance level and struggling to break out. We have activated this upside target, and we are right on this long-term support level on the point and figure chart. So we're still bullish in the short term, and the euro is conversely bearish in the short term. So we're seeing this downside target here of 115, about 2%, having shot up. Of course, the euro has deactivated these downside targets, which is positive, although we have these longer term targets hanging over us. But we also had upside targets that we deactivated. So effectively, you have a fan shape opening out here on the euro. So we just do need to be aware that it's becoming less easy to predict the direction of euro dollar in the long term because of that opening out pattern. And if we look at Japanese yen, yen is strengthening. It's a safe haven normally. Yen is strengthening. Dollar weakness here. So whilst the dollar is bullish in the short term, it's not against the yen, and we are just seeing bearishness creeping back there. If we look at sterling, sterling is below the cloud on the dollar. We have a new downside target of 124.35. That's 4.4% downside, but we need to move below this low to activate that. So at the moment, it's bearish for sure, but new lows would really be bearish for the dollar. Looking at euro sterling, of course, sterling has been touching new lows here, and we look and see how we've got these downside targets of 109.74, 108.90, and of course this 98.51, where the sterling goes to being worth less than a euro. So we see that the sterling goes to being worth less than a euro. And if we look back, we see here we're just testing this low. If we go lower than there, we come back into levels that we saw back in 2009, so several year lows. If we look at the sterling Swiss chart, we see this is bearish as well. And against the Australian dollar, we're just trying to come out with some bullishness here, but we do have downside targets back into the 150s with the Aussie dollar. Looking at the S&P 500 index, it sold off yesterday again, bearish sentiment there creeping in, and the Nasdaq just the last few hours in the market. Dow Jones also just seeing a little bit of a sell-off towards the end, and the Russell 2000, the breadth of the market is still not great. We're seeing that is still bearish. The S&P future is down this morning, a fifth of a percent, and the Nasdaq E-mini nearly a quarter of a percent. So we are just seeing those Trump comments having an effect. FTSE 100 also down sharply in the first hour of trading today, as is the FTSE 250. The DAX falling to new levels here as well, just testing the cloud, having tried to make it through, but the medium-term chart is still pretty bearish, so Europe doesn't look great. Nikkei has had a very sharp sell-off on that stronger yen and, of course, the proximity to North Korea. And then we see the Hang Seng looking strong still, so China fairly benign response, and also the Shanghai index fairly unchanged. India down 0.5%, so it's not looking good in the short term, below the cloud at the moment, and the Australian market just holding up there, so less affected. Brent crude back into bearish territory here on the short-term chart, although it's not yet a clear downtrend. We need to break below this 51.50 level for that to happen. But Brent is just weakening there, as is WTI. US nat gas just trying to recover here into the 280s, but really in the doldrums. Copper rising here quite strongly, so copper looking good. Heating oil really looking quite bearish here, down 2.8%. Is the potential target there, and hitting new lows. Coffee looking strong, looking quite bullish with upside targets of around 3 and 4%, and cocoa also holding its strength above the cloud. Cotton just bullish in the short term, and sugar actually bearish short term. Wheat having had a big rise in June, come right back, testing the lows again, so not looking as good. And soybeans also bearish below the cloud, and corn looking a little bit better with bullish moves. Now the big story, of course, is gold. Gold doesn't like any, gold tends to run on any geopolitical war risk, and so we are seeing gold going higher this morning. We do still have this upside target of 1298 to push for. This 1249 wasn't quite reached. When we see that, when a target's not to the downside is not reached, that's fairly bullish. And we do have these longer term upside targets here on gold. So gold looking better again this morning. Silver also rising in unison, as you might expect. US Treasury yields, not much changed at 2.25%. Apple still looking relatively strong. Google just struggling at this sort of 920s level. So we're just teetering along the bottom there, not sinking lower, so that is a little bit better. And Amazon also doing much the same thing. Facebook holding its own above the cloud on all three time frames, and Microsoft recovering a little bit more than Google and Apple, so that's looking a bit better too. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.